agencies like WINS. But that's not what social support means in this particular setting. Now, I just want to start off just by highlighting the impact of a person's social environment on starting to smoke and also quitting. So if we start on this side, taking someone that has never smoked, what influences people starting to smoke? Well, often it's peer pressure or their social networks. So two key important factors here are smoking friends, so friends who smoke, or parents who smoke. So if you've got those people in your social setting, then you're more likely to start or at least try smoking than those that don't. Also, those from a lower socioeconomic group, people with mental illness, and people with impulsive tendencies are more likely to try to start smoking, as they are with other things. And then the next step here is going from trying smoking to becoming a regular smoker. Not every person who tries smoking, of course, goes on to become a regular smoker. But again, here are some of the risk factors that influence that progression. So again, smoking friends. If you've got friends that smoke, you're much more likely to go on to become a regular smoker than if you don't have friends that smoke. And here are some of the other factors. So again, you know, the social determinants of health are so important here, and we often overlook these. But lower socioeconomic status, weak academic orientation, meaning you really don't want to learn that much or leave school early. Low parental support. So if you don't have, parents aren't around that much, or they don't feel like you're being supported, then you're more likely to go on to become a regular smoker. If you have pro-smoking attitudes. Now, hopefully now I'm thinking that I think these pro-smoking attitudes have probably decreased a little bit with our current big policy strategies in place. I think smoking is becoming less desirable. And other couple of factors here: alcohol consumption, especially at an early age, and genetic susceptibility. So, you know, if you're genetically wired in the right way, then you've got a higher chance of going on to become a regular smoker. So you can see, just to summarize, that the social influences are quite powerful here in becoming a regular smoker. Now, what about in prompting quit attempts? Well, it's mostly around health concerns. That's still the case. Concerns about cost, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm seeing a lot of my clients now that are saying, I need to quit smoking. I don't necessarily want to quit smoking, but I need to quit smoking. So that's often because of the cost. A positive smoker identity. So these ones in red with the parentheses around them are a negative association. So if you have a positive smoker's identity, you know, smoking is part of who you are, then you're less likely to make a quit attempt than if you don't have a positive smoker's identity. Okay. Same as if you enjoy smoking, and people in the older age groups are less likely to make a quit attempt than those from younger age groups. And if you've got people that are trying to cut down, they're also more likely to make a quit attempt. Okay, so there are some of the things that are influencing making a quit attempt. Just got a little bit of background noise there, and I might just mute a few of you. Oh, Edward, I'll have to leave you to do that. Sorry. No, sorry, I flicked on. I'll just go back to here. Whether the quit attempt is successful also depends on a number of factors. And here you can see most of them are negative factors. So if you're more highly tobacco dependent, you smoke more cigarettes, you smoke soon after waking, you're less likely to quit. than those that are less tobacco dependent. If you have a lot of cue-driven urges, so remember, cue-driven urges are urges that are in response to cues, and many of these are social, so out with friends, having a drink, stressful situations. So if you're one of those people that really responds to cues to smoke, then you may be less likely to quit smoking long term. Nicotine hunger, by that I mean that's sort of this internal need for smoke. So you just have to smoke because you just don't feel right without it. Okay, so that's sort of this internal drive as opposed to external cue-driven craving. If you've got mental illness, you also struggle with quitting. If you're from lower socioeconomic groups, you also struggle with quitting smoking. And I know that many of you, these are the people that you're seeing now. So we're really, I think we're really up against it, and we have to adapt to make sure that we cover off some of these factors. Older age is actually a positive predictor of smoking. So although people of older age are less likely to try, if they do try, they're more likely to succeed. And likewise, people from younger age groups are more likely to try, but less likely to succeed. Okay, so influence of whanau. Just a few things to set the scene here. It's always been the case in the past, it may not be so much now, but smokers are more likely to marry others who smoke. Okay, you probably know a few whanau, that a couple of smokers in the household. They're more likely to smoke the same number of cigarettes per day, and positively, they're also more likely to quit at the same time as their spouse. So if you've got partners who smoke, then getting them to stop smoking at the same time is often good. I know it doesn't always happen that way. Often you'll get someone that will come in and they'll say, I really want to quit smoking. Oh, my partner, well, they're not so sure at the moment, thinking about it. I always try and, encourage both to come along and do it at the same time. Smokers who are married to non-smokers or ex-smokers are also more likely to quit and remain abstinent. Okay, so having someone in the house that doesn't smoke can be really important. And this is the social support factors coming to play here. And just having some social support is important. So married smokers have higher quit rates than those who are divorced, widowed, or never married. So living on your own actually has a lower quit rate than living with someone else. Okay, so that's just a few things to think about. And support from a spouse is really highly predictive of a successful quit attempt. So there's a few things in there. One, if you've got others in the house that smoke, that can undermine the quit attempt, but living alone also means that you're less likely to quit. Okay, so you really so what this means in practical terms, if you have someone that lives alone, you really need to put in place some good social support. Okay, and if you've got someone who has a partner who smokes, then try and work on them both, if you can, to help them both stop smoking at the same time. Now, in terms of behaviour change techniques, you've all seen these. These are the evidence-based behaviour change techniques we put into practice. Here are a couple that are related to social support. This one down here in the corner, this is really what we're talking about today, is facilitating and advising on social support. But some of you, there may be other situations. I can think of one here of the Quitline blog, for example, where that could provide social support. Okay, so you can see this. Just a question from someone in the group. Yes, you will be able to access this video in the future. So Edward is recording it and it will be on the NTS website. Okay, now social support we've used in a number of other health behaviour change. So it's quite common, and we integrate it into smoking cessation interventions all the time, perhaps even without knowing that we're specifically talking about social support here. So if you ever said to anyone, oh, tell your family and friends that you're quitting, that's social support, right? Or if you say, well, I'd really like to find a buddy, someone that can just support you throughout this quit attempt. That is social support. So even if you're doing those, you're already starting to integrate those into your practice. Now, there are different types of support that can be offered, right? There's structural support, and that's just making sure that there's someone there to provide that support. So that's what we do when we say, find someone to help you throughout this quit attempt. Okay, so it's putting something in place, some structure. And then there's the functional support. What is provided? Now, when we're doing groups, we buddy people up together and we give them some instructions on what they're expected to do. If you're doing this individually, and you're saying, I'd really like you to find someone else to support you in this quit attempt, you need to say what that means. And I'm sure we had I'll see if I can find it, but somewhere on the NTS website or in the materials, we had a buddy contract. And it was just a one-page summary where people would take to their buddy, they'd sign it, but it said, what are you expected to do? So as a stop smoking buddy, we're expecting you to check in with your buddy on a daily basis. Just text them to see that they're okay. If the person who's trying to stop slips, don't tell them that they've failed. Give them a pat on the back and help them back on track. Okay, so this is really about giving some clear, practical guidance about what the support actually means. And sometimes we're not so good at doing that, or we make assumptions that people will naturally know what they're meant to do. So, structural, put something in place. Functional, tell people what they're meant to be doing. And there might be different support at different times. So the supportive behavior by a spouse might be really important in the early phases of the quit attempt. So this would be where you instruct the spouse to give them a pat on the back. It's motivational support. Come on, darling, you can keep on going, that kind of thing. Okay. So that is really important in the early phases, that sort of motivational support to keep people going. Later in the quit attempt, what seems to be important is less undermining behaviors. That is, if someone gets, a bit, you've got someone who's not smoked for 4 weeks, you don't want the partner or spouse to say, oh, for goodness sake, just have a cigarette. Or that you've got friends that are smoking saying, oh, come on, you've done it for 4 weeks now, you should be fine. Okay, so you don't want those sort of behaviors happening, because they can trip people up long term. Now, just some data here. Sonia, I think you've become unmuted. If you can just mute your line, that'd be great. There's just a bit of background noise. Now, this is from the Cochrane Review on Enhancing Partner Support. And what you're seeing here is the 6 different studies, and none of them showed a significant effect on partner support in a stop smoking attempt. Okay, so overall, there's no effect to say it works or makes things worse. So you, I guess, might be thinking, well, why would we put this effort into providing partner support? I think here it's about, you don't have to do a specific intervention on partner support, but integrate it into your routine practice. Now, what about a quit buddy? Because this is something a little bit more structured. We use this a lot in group-based treatment. You can also use it in individual treatment, but here the evidence is a little bit mixed as well. So who can be a quit buddy? Well, it can pretty much be anyone. It can be a never smoker, it could be someone else that's trying to quit, it could be an ex-smoker, or it could even be a current smoker that's just really supportive. So it doesn't matter, as long as the current smoker is not trying to undermine someone that's trying to quit. Where do you get them from? It doesn't matter. It could be within your existing social network. It might be someone completely new, like we typically would do in stop smoking services and group-based settings. And what does the buddy do? Well, the buddy is given social responsibility to support the person in their quit attempt. Okay, but they have to know that that's what their role is. So if you're going to use buddies, you need to sort of put that up front, as I said, either in a contract or a user guide to what it means to be a stop smoking buddy. Now, within group-based treatment, as I've mentioned, you've already got social support in groups. It just happens naturally because people are talking to each other, they're supporting each other throughout the group. There is some evidence for the social support in group-based interventions. Probably the largest study, a few years old now, it was published back in 1995, but the lung health study, men in particular who had social support were more likely to be abstinent after a year compared to those without support. You can see the long-term quit rates here. For women, that wasn't true. So regardless of whether women had the social support or not, there was no significant difference in their quit rates. But for men, it was particularly important. Now, you might say, well, actually, women have more avenues for social support, so perhaps it didn't matter in any sort of structured intervention. Whereas men, well, Atane perhaps tend to bury their heads in the sand over some things or don't want to talk about stuff. So perhaps for men, adding in some social support might be important. So does it work? Well, in general, if you're looking at the studies overall, there's a positive association with having a buddy and a successful quit attempt. But I just want to flag here, there might be a self-selection bias happening. That is, if you're just more determined to quit smoking, you're the ones that go out there and do everything, including finding a quit smoking buddy. Okay, so if you're just more determined and you're going to take your NRT, you're going to come to the sessions, you're going to get your quit buddy, you might be just more likely to quit because you're more determined, as opposed to having that quit buddy in place. So you have to be a bit careful with how you interpret these data. Some of you have seen this, but this was a trial conducted a few years ago, 20 years ago now. And this was the buddy study. And this was an individual treatment. So it was in a practice-based setting. And what happened in the study, the nurses who were providing the smoking cessation treatment either saw people just one-on-one, or they went out into the waiting room and pulled two people that didn't know each other in together. And they talked to them at the same time, and they buddied them up. Okay, so they had that buddy technique where they had to call each other on a daily basis just to check that they were okay. And in the study, just looking at short-term quit rates here, you can see this rough doubling of quit rates if you had a buddy. Now, the nurses in the study didn't particularly like doing the buddy condition because we all have, some fear that bringing two people that don't know each other, that might undermine something, or people might share something that they shouldn't. This is not usually the case in smoking cessation. So if you have the opportunity to see a couple of people at the same time, then do. It's not always appropriate, but if you can, do, and if it makes sense, do. Now, what about quit buddies and group-based treatment? This was a trial I was involved in a few years into my work in smoking cessation. And it was a randomized controlled trial to test the buddy thing. Okay, so there were 563 smokers. We did this in our group-based treatment smokers clinic. And these groups of smokers were either randomized to be a buddy group, where we buddied them up as normal, and there were 237 smokers in 14 groups. And the other groups received the same treatment without the buddy condition. Okay, so one lot of groups had buddies, the other didn't. There were more non-buddy groups here. Certainly some of the practitioners didn't always feel comfortable in doing the buddying, so we probably had a bit of practitioner effect here as well. They had their usual 6 or 7 session treatment, seen weekly for 4 weeks post target quit date, and then followed up for 6 months. So what do you reckon? Did it work or not? Well, here are the results. These are the odds of quitting in the buddy group versus the non-buddy groups. And what I can tell you here, although the buddy groups had higher rates of quitting smoking in the initial 4-week period, this wasn't significant. So these are the 95% confidence intervals, which all cross 1, which means there's no significant difference between the groups. Okay, so actually doing the buddying thing didn't make any difference to long-term outcome here. Okay, what they did show is that most of the participants in the buddy group, 60%, who attended the 1-week post-quit date session, said they found having a buddy was useful. So although there's some hint that it might be helping, it seems on its own it's not a big enough effect. So why no effect? Well, it might be just that the level of social support in groups is already high. So even when you're trying to add these little things in, it makes no difference whatsoever. Okay, and we've got a hint that despite the lack of effect, that people that got the buddy intervention still had this greater sense of having someone to turn to, and for some people that might be important. Well, what could we do differently? Well, as we all do, and you've probably been taught if you've done our group-based treatment training, we buddy people up on the quit date. But maybe actually we need to buddy up people at the beginning. Maybe more time to get to know each other, as opposed to leaving it to the last minute, would be a better thing. So maybe in our group sessions, we should change that and start, getting people to talk to each other and buddy up, 2 weeks prior. So by the time they get to the quit date, they already know each other. We might need to give more detailed guidance on exactly what to do. We kind of say, text each other on a daily basis, but that's it. Do we check? Do we text them all to saying, I hope you're checking each other, catching up with each other on a daily basis? Maybe we need better software or apps or something to support this approach. We still rely on quite old technology, and I'll show you some examples of social support in a minute. But you need people to use them. If they don't use them, they're not going to have the effect. And we've also got this other problem, is that not everyone managed to stop smoking, and not everyone comes back to the groups. So should we pay more attention to doing a re-buddy on people that have lost their buddies? So you're trying to maintain that social support over time. And maybe we don't do this well enough, and I'll be self-critical here, is sometimes you get busy and you forget to catch up with people that have lost their buddy in the previous week. Now, what could we use to help people engage more? Well, we tried this, I think about 3 years ago. We called it Unlit. It was an online group-based treatment program. It had everything there. I was logging on into this. We were trying to get people to talk. It just didn't work at all. It was an absolute failure. And the reason it didn't work is that we didn't have people engaging. We had people sitting on the edges that enrolled, that are just looking, but they weren't chatting with each other. And if you've got no talking that's happening, then there's no social support there, obviously. So this was just a one-way communication tool for me to talk to a group of people. And although some stopped, it just really didn't get off the ground. So Unlit got booted into the inspiring archives. But it was a good idea. Others have been using just social media. So Twitter, for example, you can send tweets, you can have private groups on Twitter. And so in theory, you could really enhance social support with your groups of people that you're using if they use Twitter. And not everyone uses Twitter, of course. Now, at the moment, there's no strong evidence of an effect for smoking cessation, but it shows promise. And there have been a couple of studies that have looked at using Twitter. Okay, I think that probably Twitter may be more useful as a communication tool when we're seeing people face to face. So looking at this hybrid model of using social media to carry on that contact with our clients when we're not there face to face. Goalpost, I'd forgotten about this, but this is Melon Health, which is a New Zealand company that has this sort of social way to quit smoking, just as the app says here. And I'll show you online, Siobhan, very kindly, the CEO of Melon Health very kindly sent me a couple of links just to look at that. This isn't available to New Zealand smokers at the moment, but it's been used a lot in the US. But it's just an example of what can be used, what technology is out there. We do have blogs, of course, and the Quitline has a good blog. I always tell my clients about this. Not everyone's into blogging. Not everyone wants to share their story. But I think for those that do, this can be quite a good way to increase motivation. Let's face it, that's what people like on Twitter or Facebook. So many likes. There are some people that really get their kicks, I suppose, by getting responses from other people. And that may be important. So I'll finish here, but I will take you back to the Goalpost website just to show you some of these things. But despite the evidence with some of the specific techniques being a bit equivocal, I think the facilitating and enhancing of social support is important, especially for some people. I don't think that on its own it has a big impact. And I don't think that we need to pull apart what we do and the interventions that we provide. It comes as a package. And I think it's all these things within the package that get the results that we want. So, my advice here would be to continue to do it. But when you're integrating social support, try and keep things simple, but also make sure people understand what you're trying to do and what they need to do. If they're going off to find a buddy, make sure they know what their buddy is meant to be doing. So our contacts are all there, as you know, and many of you know how to contact us. Let me just go to my web browser here, do a new share. Okay, so this is Goalpost. Can everyone see that? Yep, yep, good. Okay. So as I said, it's not available here, but this is essentially what it does. You sign up to this. You've got some social media, some social support options here. Let me just go through this. You get a quick coach with this. So, and I guess this is where I'd see, the future with us, that people meet us face to face, but then we're virtually available all of the time as well. People enter their smoking habits there, their details, how you contact them, maybe a little bit about you. They might be pregnant. You can type in their motivation to quit, and again, your contact details. Your quit to-dos, whether you're successful. You've got community ability to be able to share to the community there as well. Just looking at some of the other tasks, throw away your smoking stuff. Yep, done that. You can post a comment. Were you successful in resisting urges to smoke today? Yep, great. Cool, you saved that much money. A bit more now than the $5. This is just this is Better Me. So very similar, and I think this is weight management. So if we just have a look at this, it gives you a little bit more of an idea of the community you've got here. I'm feeling a lot better, cutting out sodas and juice. I've lost 10 pounds so far. So you can share this and you get the response. Awesome, wow. And for many people, that's going to really keep them going. You've got your diary, what's happened. This is weight loss, obviously, but you can, for smoking, you'd have the smoking goals. You've got access to your coach, waiting for you. Let's call. Yeah, this is kind of the thing, right? That you're out there, that you should be doing these things. And if you're like me, I like to use video messaging or conversations frequently, and certainly you have to for prescribing. So this is the sort of technology that would be great to have, as well as some resources, personal stories. Yeah, it's all there, and this has been used as a standalone sort of thing. But I think should we in the future start looking at how we might extend our reach as a face-to-face service to use these when people can't come in. And you know as well as I do, many whānau don't even have the money to get to where you're going. It's great if you're doing home visits, but sometimes they live quite a journey. Yeah, just as you say, Casino, it'd be great for areas where you just can't get there all of the time, and you've got this ability to chat with them. And there's nothing like seeing someone face to face. You can see their expressions. You've got the the body language that you just don't pick up on the telephone. So I can see these sort of things as being really, really very useful. Anyway, that's enough from me. I'll stop that share and open it up for any questions.